what we start today is uh, essentially the optics of metals. So, if you remember, as a refresher, what we did in the last week was basically the optics of dielectrics. Not dielectrics really. I mean, in the sense that how an electromagnetic wave behaved at the interface of two dielectric materials, N1 and N2. So again, let me start sharing now. So what you see my screen? You see my screen, right? You see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. So basically, this was again where what we kind of want to cover in this course, this whole setup, this part here of how one can trap an optic by light, how one can trap a nanoparticle. Trap means spatially confined in three dimensions, and that is like a real world problem that we have taken up, and what we the various aspects of which we shall cover in the course of this journey. And so essentially we have a laser beam, and then that is going through a polarizing optic. This is a half wave plate which changes the polarization of light. So this is essentially a birefringent material. So then it is going through two lenses. So this is again how a Gaussian beam goes interacts with optical elements. So various things like this you have. And one crucial thing is, for example, this reflection by a mirror, reflection by another mirror. So that is governed. So these mirrors, for example, may be either dielectric interfaces. So they may have just dielectric coated, two dielectrics coated on top of each other, or they may also be metallic mirrors. So therefore, how this beam reflects, what is the proportion of light that is reflected out of this mirror? For example, this polarizing beam splitter. This is going to either transmit light or reflect light as per its input polarization. So, for example, if the light is all p polarized, then it all goes through. If it is completely s polarized, then it all goes reflected. And if it's a mixture, then you can actually get 50-50. So that is very nice. So this is completely, how each polarization behaves at a particular interface of two dielectric materials. That actually is governed by, by the Fresnel relations, which we just studied last class. So from there, we essentially go on to the optics of metals, because, by the way, so this part I think was covered, had been covered by me when we did that second year optics course. All the BSMS students here, they probably had done this to certain level. Maybe our IPhDs and PhDs, maybe you have not done it, but at least that is I hope served as a good starting point of how we shall go about this course. So what we shall do today is just go on in the same vein, in the sense that we are basically now looking at how light sort of will behave when it is incident on a metallic substance. So let us just write this. The topic essentially is optics of metals. Okay. So there are some interesting aspects of metals. So when you think of metals and light, so what is the most obvious property, or what is that in metals which stands out in terms of its response, of their response to light? Can you tell me? I mean, what do you guys feel? What are the aspects? What is the most
Free
outstanding
electrons.
aspect? No, but how a metal behaves with light, that's what I'm asking. Yeah, when I talk of metals, I a metal sort of yeah, okay, so it's different from dielectrics in the sense that metals have free electrons. So if I just maybe write that. Yeah. So I can say that metals we typically characterize having free electrons. However, how do, yeah, this is quite important. But when we talk of metals interacting with light, metals interacting with light, what are the aspects, like what do you think really stand out? I mean, when I talk about metal, what and light, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Huh? What do you think is okay? This metal, the word, metal hitting you. What is the reaction?
The reflectivity will be usually in the metal.
Exactly. So metals are
Shining.
kind of shiny, right? So essentially high reflectivity. Extreme, very good. So that is the first thing that strikes us, right? That metals are shiny, and that is shiny means essentially they reflect light well, and that is something which we are going to see as well. That metals, we are going to show that the reflectance of metals is very high, provided, of course, there is a certain assumption there that we uh, there is this the conductivity of metal, so that has a DC value, a fixed value, and that has sort of frequency dependence. So as long as we are in the DC limit, it is quite fine. But the moment we talk of dispersion, then things might get crazy. But typically in the visible, you can say that metals are extremely shiny. They are high reflective. Yeah, so that is one very obvious thing. And the other thing which is obvious, there are few things which are not obvious, which you will probably will learn. I think one I discussed, but what is the other thing that is not as obvious as shiny, but what that is also something which you being students of physics are aware about. So light essentially is an electric field, right? So electric field metals. What is that? A very very well known thing that you're aware of.
Photoelectric effect.
Photoelectric effect. Yeah, but that is again something that is that's a quantum picture first of all, and yes, that might happen, but that again will depend on whether the work function of the material is smaller, is yeah smaller than the energy of the light coming in and all that. But a general property of metals when they interact with so electric fields, what is that that you typically connect actually when you talk of metals electric fields, something you sort of think that this is a important property, this is quite sort of a typical property of metals, electric field and metals, so the nature, how does electric field sort of propagate, or how do they behave in that, in this thing for a metal? So metal means,
So,
yeah,
yeah, electromagnetic waves like typically can't propagate inside the metal,
very
so they
good,
have a skin
exactly.
depth. Yeah.
Yes, very good. So that is the critical thing. So you, by the way, that was when we were in school and also, I think there was this trick question which used to be asked that suppose you are going, so people who are at Calcutta are familiar with trams, though they are not so much common now. But I think all of you have heard about trams, right? So they are not there in other cities of Calcutta except, I mean, other cities of India except Calcutta. But at least trams you are familiar with. Well, trains also, actually, trains are fine. I think trams. I heard this in the context of trams. So the question typically used to be that trams run on electricity, and the thing was, so suppose there is a huge storm or something that happens, and there is a live overhead, cable which sort of the tram is sort of connected with by those large the connectors that they have. Uh, so the tram essentially gains sort of gets electric power by contact with the overhead cable. So suppose what happens is there is a storm, and the electric cable snaps and falls on the tram. So, what is the safest place for the passengers, and what should they not do? So what is the answer? I mean, the cable has fallen, and of course, yeah. Okay, one can always say that they can sort of run out or something. If but suppose there's a very heavy rain pelting down or something, and you cannot run down. So what is something that the passengers should do, and what should they not do? Suppose
They can just stay inside, sir.
exactly. So you absolutely stay inside because the electric field will not penetrate through, and in fact, if you even touch the inside of your thing, I mean, provided that yeah, so even then you will not get a shock because all the huge electric field that is only on the surface of the conducting material which the tram is made. It's a metallic, those cages are basically metallic, so you should stay inside the tram. That is the safest place. So essentially, what we are saying is that the electric field decays very fast, right? Decays very quickly inside a metal. Inside a metal, and that is the skin depth. Okay, and we should just have an idea of how this, of course, we'll derive what the skin depth is. And we should also have an idea of how any kind of sort of a free charge, how it propagates and how quickly it decays inside a metal. There are two other points which are important, which one point I had discussed. Acha, so what is the direct consequence of number two? What is a direct consequence? The fact that the electric field decays very quickly inside a metal, skin depth. So what will be the straight consequence in terms of, now that you know Maxwell's equations, what do you think will be a consequence of this particular phenomena? Yeah.
Resistivity.
Oh no, Achha, that's an interesting answer. You are actually saying why the electric field is decaying. I'm saying yes, it is decaying because of that, but we'll actually come to that. The mechanism we'll come to. Actually, what I'm saying, a consequence. Consequence, this is a cause. What is an effect? Resistivity is not an effect. Resistivity is linked to the cause, you can say. But the decaying of the spatial, the quick decay, the spatial, the small dimension in which the electric field decays inside a metal, that will directly lead to something. Now that you know Maxwell's equations.
Yes, in alternating current wires, we use stranded wires instead of one huge copper block.
So what is the why?
As the current is mainly isolated on the surface instead of throughout the whole volume of the.
But again, that is a detail. What I'm asking is a very generic effect, very basic consequence. If you have an electric field decaying very fast, what will that lead to? Now that you know Maxwell's equations, what will that lead to? Huh?
Magnetic fields.
Yes, it will lead to much higher magnetic fields than that in a dielectric. Magnetic fields are much higher in metals compared to dielectric. So typically in a dielectric medium, we know that E by B is the velocity of light, right? So what we will see here is that is not true. That is much far larger. And why is this? This is a consequence of which equation? This is a consequence of which equation? The magnetic field being large because the electric field decays in a very, very small spatial region. Which equation? Hey, क्या हुआ? अरे, if the electric field decays over a very small spatial range, then why is the magnetic field large? Which equation tells you that?
For del
Hello?
cross.
Yeah, Faraday's law, right? Basically, so del cross B is del E, del T and all that, right? Del dot J and all that. So basically, Faraday's law tells you that it's going to fall very quickly, right? And the other consequence, which that of course you may not know, but we are going to show that, is that velocity of light is actually much smaller. Is much smaller than for the. So these are the basic things which we are which we are now going to. So this is the. So I'm giving you the takeaways before. So these are like some observables. I mean, at least first two are things that you know. First one is a macroscopically observable phenomena, which you just see all about you in daily life. So the chapter, this particular topic, essentially we will cover all this. Okay, so that is why I sort of give a kind of summary of this, and what we shall now commence in the quantitative understanding of the problem. So the first thing that we sort of understand here is that you have a pretty large and a finite free current density, right? So free current density is quite large, and that is given by what? This is the J free current, which is sort of given by sigma E xt, and this is pretty big. Okay, so you know that this is the free current thing, and the bound charges, the quantity of the bound charges, bound electrons, the effect of them, that is given by what? Which one? Which gives you this, right? By the way, what is D? Is D the displacement current? Huh? What?
No, it's the displacement vector.
It is actually the displacement charge. That is very important to note. The displacement current is actually del D del T. That is very, very important. We at times unthinkingly refer to D as displacement current. That is not correct. This is displacement charge. The current is the time derivative of this. Okay, and of course you have that is quite fine. You have already also here H equals P by mu. That is fine. But what is crucial also is that inside metals you have no free charge. Rho free is 0. Now, can we sort of find, so suppose, so if you have free electrons on the surface of the metal, right? That is known. And so suppose I say that there is some kind of charge density on the metal, which is isolated in a sense. It's like some kind of a charge density over a certain area, and we want to find out what is the time scales at which that decays inside. Okay, how much time will it take to decay? Well, if it's sort of from it, if it got sort of goes from the surface to the inside of the metal, how much time does the charge density sort of take to decay? If you have something on the surface, it's not the skin depth. We are looking at the time scales here. Okay, that is very important. So how will we go about that? So what I'm trying to say is that assume that there exists some kind of an isolated charge density, say that is some rho 0x on the conductor, on a conductor which has a sigma as the conductivity, then how much time will it take to decay? Okay, so how do we go about this problem? So very simple. So acha, there is one important thing is that we are not assuming any polarization effect. Okay, that is crucial. We are not assuming, we are sort of saying that polarization is unimportant. So we say that polarization is negligible. And what is the consequence of that? Basically, your epsilon is epsilon 0. Okay, we are not assuming a particular permittivity of the material. Okay, we are saying that this is that of free space. Okay, so how do we go about it? So essentially, we take the Gauss theorem. So nothing but del dot E of xt is some rho by epsilon naught sum that xt. So this is like, suppose this is the thing, right? Now we know that, of course, your J is your sigma E, which obviously implies that E is, just J by sigma, which means that I can write this as del dot J is, we also know that, sorry. No, this is not working. Yeah, so I basically write this as del dot J as rho sigma by epsilon naught. Okay, so remember, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to see how rho t is, so rho 0 is the charge at time 0. Okay, t equal to 0 means we have rho 0. What is happening at time t? This is what I'm going to find. So, so we basically need to have a first order differential equation in time. So can you tell me how we can construct that? What is your thought? How do we go ahead? This is one equation that we have. Now we want to find out, essentially we have starting with rho 0, what happens to rho 0 after time t. So this is obviously one thing, but we need to have some kind of a first order equation in time of rho. So what do you think we should use?
Ampere's law.
Continuity
Yes.
equation.
Bishojit, don't say. Let them think. So Bishojit, your TA has given the answer. So obviously, what you should say, use is the continuity equation, right? Right, this remember, by the way, this is a crucial equation, right? Because this is the equation which actually inspired Maxwell to come up with the concept of displacement current. That is clear to everybody, right? Everybody who does this course, if you are not aware of this, I think you're not prepared to take this course. Please remember that this is a very, very, very crucial equation in all of physics. Okay, so basically what I'm saying is, if this is the case, then obviously I have what I need. I simply write that your sigma rho by epsilon naught is minus del rho del t, which obviously means that your del rho by rho is minus sigma by epsilon naught t, which means that your rho is rho 0 exponential minus sigma by epsilon naught t. So now we have sort of a time scale. If I say that, if I sort of think that this is going as some kind of rho e to the minus undo control Z somehow here. If I say that this is some t by tau, then your tau is nothing but epsilon naught by sigma, right? And we have some kind, which means that we have a frequency sort of a also some this tau, this time scale corresponds to a frequency which is omega by which is some sigma by epsilon naught. And why is this frequency important? Because this is that DC thing that I was talking to you about, where I am. So this is these, as you see here, what is omega? It is basically a constant, right? This omega is a constant because sigma and epsilon naught are both constants. So if we work within these time scales, we are actually taking some kind of, this is like a DC picture. We are not assuming dispersion. Okay, so this is very important in the sense that when you stick to these time scales, then things are very much simpler, much simpler. The moment you go to higher time scales, then this becomes, things are much more complicated. So for example, if you think of real numbers, so I can tell you that omega for copper, well, if you actually take the numbers of conductivity, DC, this conductivity and epsilon naught, then for copper this comes to around, so let me write for copper, this omega comes to around 10 to the power 18 hertz. Okay, it's quite large. But actually, if you do the correct calculations, so this is phenomenologically, what does this mean? This is phenomenologically, this is basically something like a frequency of electron collisions. Okay, and that come if you actually if you do some stringent analysis, then you will actually get reveals basically omega to be around 10 to the power 14 hertz, which is 10 to the power 14 hertz. If you think of is like the visible the frequency corresponding to mostly visible light. So for example, 600 nanometers is about 3 to 10 to the power 14. So about I should probably write this as almost equal to this. So this is this thing. So this is basically by considering electron collisions and all. Electron collisions. So this gives us some kind of time scale. Now, what we sort of need to understand in terms of physics is, why do you think this is happening? Why is this decay happening? What is the sort of pathway? I mean, why is this? What mechanism is behind the decay of charge? So what do you think? What do you think, guys? What is the mechanism that is behind this? We essentially have something like J equal to sigma E. This is the main thing. So in the probably just somewhat ahead, we will actually look at quantitative values. What values of the sigma and all that? When do we actually decide that an object, that a material is metallic and not dielectric? Okay, so we will actually, it's quite obvious actually what sort of limit we should take. But anyway, I should not preempt that. But what do you think is the mechanism? Why do you think this electric field is decaying when in the presence of this free electron density existing? What do you think is the reason why there is this skin depth, and why does the electric field decay so fast? Huh?
There should be some resistance because of the free electrons.
Yes, exactly. So essentially what we are saying is that there is, the moment you write this sort of this current density, Because of electron collisions, which I say, there is essentially some kind of ohmic losses which result in heating of the sample. So where does this heat come from? What is the source of the heat? What is the source of the heat? The source of the heat, the energy comes from where? You are basically, this is the second law of thermodynamics, right? You cannot create energy. So the energy the heat that you are getting is coming from something. It's coming from where? The thing that is the heating up the metal, the energy comes from which object?
Energy of the light, like it
Exactly, the electric field itself, right? So the energy of the light energy is getting converted to heat energy. So obviously it is just sort of sucking in the material is sucking energy from the light and converting into heat. So obviously the light energy has to decay, right? The wave has to lose energy, right? So that is the real physics mechanism of the existence of a skin depth for metal. So essentially what I'm trying to say is you have a current density which implies straight implies and ohmic resistance, and that implies losses and heating of the sample which means that so essentially this is just the dissipation of energy of the field into heat or some kind of or random processes, and these may be like molecular collisions and all that. Collisions, which essentially means that the wave loses energy as it travels inside the medium. So this is what basically we call the skin depth. Okay. So now let us just look at acha. So what is the other very crucial consequence? I mean, so we are saying that the thing is getting, the material is getting hot. So hot money it is absorbing, right? So how is that quantitatively coming, right? So the crucial thing is we have to understand how this absorption is, what is the physics of this absorption. So let us just consider ekdam from the beginning itself, the first principles itself. That is what the hell. Oh, there's some crazy things that happens here. Anyway, so let me just write. So we write the. Okay, let me go to a new one. Let us start with the Maxwell's equations. Actually, let me start on a new sheet because otherwise it will again. It is. Okay. So let us start with the. Okay. So we have start with del dot E equals 0, del cross E equal to minus del V del T, and del cross B equal to mu sigma E plus mu epsilon del E del T, right? And of course, I want to construct the wave equation. How do I typically construct the wave equation? Guys, which I just do a curl of this one, right? Right? That is the most standard way. So I take del cross E equal to minus del T del cross B, right? Which means that this means that del cross E. So this will be what? This is going to be del dot E del and minus del square E, right? So del dot E is 0. So basically we come to del square E. So we have mu sigma del E del T plus mu epsilon del square E del T square. So you can see that the wave equation itself has modified. We no longer have that single, and that is only modified because of the presence of this large sigma. If this were small, then we basically will get back the old wave equation that we know, that is the one for dielectrics, right? So again, if I just assume a plane wave solution of the order of the nature of Et E0 I just kz minus omega t. Omega t, right? So E0 I consider here to be real. Okay, so that implies straight away that I have minus k square equal to minus mu epsilon omega square minus I mu sigma omega, right? Which means that your k square is mu epsilon omega square plus I mu sigma omega. Now you can straight understand that if your sigma is 0, that means you basically have just your k square is omega square by c square, right? So this is the dielectric thing. So straight you get this sigma, the arising of this sigma, it is essentially rendering k as complex, right? And that has enormous consequences. So that is what we are going to look at first. So that means that in the presence of finite sigma, k is complex. That is very critical, and that means I have k is some k1 plus I k2. Okay, so let us try to find what the values of these things are and what these are. This is a bit of very simple math. Okay, very simple math. There's nothing. So what my motivation is to find out what the values of k1, k2, etc. are. See, what I'm trying to find out from here is whether we can get to an expression for the spin depth. Okay, so that is what and of course, what is the direct meaning of k being imaginary? So that you can anyway anticipate from this, very simple. But if I just put k equal to k1 plus k2 here plus ik2 in this equation, you know what happens, right? So anyway, let us just straight proceed. So if I have this, that implies that your k1 square minus k2 square plus 2i k1 k2 equal to mu epsilon omega square plus I mu sigma omega, right?
Sir,
हाँ
in case
बोलो.
of dielectrics, we
हाँ,
assume that sigma is zero. That's why we didn't
yeah,
realize
yeah,
this,
yes,
right?
yes, correct. There's no conductivity.
Okay.
So if my sigma is zero, there is no conductivity, right? And so, Rohan, from there you can also understand that absorption is something which we, okay, that is, okay. In the sense that the theory that we did there is, I mean, physically we can argue that there is no absorption from here itself. However, things are not so simple. When we shall go into the electron picture, then obviously there will be importance. I mean, see, absolutely, you can well say that I mean, isn't this too simple? I mean, you're just saying sigma is zero, so it is just so ridiculously simple. But finally, what are dielectrics made up of? Dielectrics are made up of electrons which are bound, and if an electron is bound, is basically means it is just harmonic. We have the force driven damped harmonic oscillator, right? So that means we take that equation with electric field on the right hand side, and that obviously means that for certain frequencies of the electric field you will have a phenomenon of resonance, and the moment you have a phenomenon called resonance, all kinds of interesting things will come up. In fact, you think of that, right? So the solution of that, if you think of the solution of x in the damped harmonic oscillator, force damped driven harmonic oscillator equation, that is it's complex, right? It is complex. So essentially there are some assumptions where we can not, where far away, we will do that in detail, but things are connected by, so I want everybody to please try to connect. Physics is all about connections. Here at the moment we are assuming a very simple thing, that sigma is zero, and even this is the same thing that we assumed when we did the Fresnel's laws, where we did not assume any absorption, and very crucially k was not complex. And obviously you can anticipate, you can realize that if k is complex, then there is going to be absorption. So we'll see that very soon. But let me just quickly finish this. So basically, how do I solve this? I will just take the real term separately and the imaginary term separately, right? So basically, what I get is just k1 square minus k2 square. I can write as mu epsilon omega square, and this k1 k2 I write as basically mu sigma omega by 2, right? Which means that your k2 is nothing but mu sigma omega by 2 k1. Okay. So then very simple again. We just replace that. We have what? We have k2 as mu sigma omega by 2 k1. Just replace in the previous equation. Then what do you have? K1 square. Okay. Shit, can you tell me what it is? I have to go back and say. So just tell me the answer. K1 square
K1
minus.
square minus K2 square is equal to mu sigma, mu epsilon omega square.
No. I'm saying put in that K1 square minus K2 square equation. Yeah. So basically, the K1 square minus K2 square में ये बैठा हो. Oh, it was just K1 square minus K2 square equal to. 1 minute. We should do everything in one sheet. Oh, yo. Oh, this one, right? K1 square, yeah, mu sigma, mu epsilon. Oh, yeah. That is what you said, no? What you say? I did not follow. You want to tell me again? K1 square minus K2 square?
Sir, I haven't put the second equation on it. I'm doing it.
No,
It's-
do that. Hey, कहाँ गया यार? Oh, shit. Oh, man. K1 square. Yeah, so that one was K2 square, right? So basically mu sigma omega by 2 K1 whole square equal to this right hand mu omega mu this one, right? This is one. I think this is fine. Straight. Okay, then it's simple. So basically we have 4 K1 4 minus 4 K1 square mu epsilon omega square minus so basically mu sigma omega whole square is 0. This is fine, no? Fine. So my K1 square will be minus b, so mu epsilon omega square plus minus root of b square. So this will be, oh acha, this is 4, sorry, 4 hai. 4, and then this one will be 16 b squared, so 16 16 mu epsilon omega square whole square minus, this is also 16 mu sigma omega whole square divided by 2, no, just 8, right? So if I now make common, so what can I take common? So basically if I just write so this 4, so this 4 all will cancel, so niche 2 reh jayega. So if I just take mu epsilon whole square common, then I will have 1 plus minus root of 1
That will be plus, sir.
oh plus yeah, plus, thank you 1 plus sigma by epsilon omega whole square divide by 2. Hey, this is correct, guys? This is correct, right? I've taken just this one common. Hey, rather, so yeah, I've taken this guy common. This guy common mane ye niche, this is 4 to the power 4, so only epsilon omega square will come, mu will get common, so this will come out, right? So it will get this here and it will come out. Okay, right? So K1, basically if I take now root, I have basically just you can say that my solutions will be K1 is essentially some plus minus omega root of, oh yo,
So you can actually use the eraser tool.
where is the eraser tool? Eraser tool, where is it?
So the pink one beside the ruler.
Pink one, where is ruler? ruler किधर है? Oh, ये यहाँ पे.
No, sir.
Here. Where? But nothing. No, where is pink? Pink कहाँ देख रहे हो? I don't have any pink anywhere.
So from the panel you are choosing the pens.
Oh, there. Oh, okay. Oh, this one. Acha. Oh,
This
yeah.
one.
Shit, man. You should have told me before. Okay. Oh, great, 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 great. Okay, but this one is, you probably need a bit of, you know, control with the hand or something. Anyway, let us write this. So K1 equal to plus minus omega root of mu epsilon by 2, if I can write the correct thing, root of 1 plus sigma by epsilon omega. This one is whole square. This one is half. Oh, plus minus 1. Half. Right? And K2 obviously you can get from here. If you just do 2 by this thing, you will get K2. But what is important to note now, so these are some basic sort of relations for here. But what we will want to stress is that K1 and K2 being, you know, what they mean. So basically, so K2 I will just write K2 obtained from I can just something obtained from equation 1. Okay, so what is the significance of K1 and K2? So if I think of it, if I have the EZT equal to E0 e to the minus, so if I think of it, so we have what, KZ minus omega t, right? So that basically means if I put, remember that, let me use the negative power. Oh, nice. Very nice. Was that Chitradip? Who was that? Who helped
Yes,
me
sir.
with the either? Thank you so much. Acha.
Welcome.
So we have K equal to K1 plus I K2, which essentially means that EZT is E0 e to the minus K2Z and e to the I K1Z minus omega t. Okay. So basically it is very clear that you have K2 is directly, so basically, so no, let us think of K1. So K1 is associated, this is real, right? So what is this associated with, guys? K1 is associated with what? Associated with what? Huh?
Propagation.
Propagation, right? With propagation or the phase velocity of the EM wave, right? And so essentially that is, so you know, that is basically omega by K1. Well, I should in principle put this also as omega, because the correct thing is to put, the complete thing is to put an to assume that this may have dispersion. We will study all that. So this is basically nothing but what is the phase velocity? So this is the phase velocity or velocity of a point where the sort of, you know, the phase is fixed. So basically that is what the, if you really think of, you know, try to understand what phase velocity is, it is essentially that. But the crucial thing, you know, what is the one that is more important is the group velocity, right? So what is group velocity? That is obviously, group velocity is d omega decay. And in the absence of dispersion, obviously Vg and Vp are same. And this is Vp. If K omega is K, then Vg equal to Vp. But if it is not, it is dispersive, then obviously things will change. So, signals will get broadened and all that. So different phases, different frequency signals will have different velocity. So basically the center will get broadened. So this is essentially the velocity of the envelope. Velocity of envelope. And envelope only, of course, comes in when there are many frequency components. If there is only single frequency component, then there is no meaning of saying envelope. The phase and group velocity are the same. However, what is more interesting is what is K2. So K2 is nothing but, you can straight see K2 is associated with absorption or attenuation. So let me make a statement here, important, which we will defend later on in the course. For metals, the presence of a finite absorption is natural. That is why it is a metal. It is not the case for dielectrics. Dielectrics, it is typically, they are not absorbing, as we saw that sigma is 0 there. As a result, K is straight omega by C. However, if you change the frequency of the light, of the electromagnetic wave, then there are some pretty interesting things that can happen. And obviously, we are going to study that in the next, after we finish optics of metals, we are basically going to study that. But for metals, you can straight say that the definition of metals itself is associated with absorption. Okay, so I think I will stop here. So next class we will basically go to what more details of these things, and we will basically start with at what kind of quantitative property of a material, what quantitative property will tell you whether it's a metal or not. Okay, and then we will go into things like skin depth and find out different interesting properties of metals. We wrote down certain properties, we anticipated some properties, and we are going to quantitatively defend those or derive those. Okay, so that is that. Achha, so tell me if you have questions. Let me stop sharing and come to the meet, and maybe for little bit of time show myself. Yeah, so if you have any questions on this, maybe 2 minutes, or we can whatever. Any questions? I mean, these are very simple things we did. I don't think it was. So I hope, by the way, I hope today's recording comes to me, because even last day the recording, I think, went to somebody, right? Whom did it go to actually? Ronak Noskar had the recording. So I have no clue, because just to prevent that, I logged in at the beginning, and again it went to somebody. So my default thing will be, if you find that the meet recording is shared with you, please give me edit privileges, because otherwise I cannot move it to the classroom folder. Okay? Okay, so then we will meet tomorrow again 6 o'clock and continue from there.
Sir.
Okay, some question?
No, sir, not a question really. Actually, sir, you had shared with me the folder, but the thing is, I can't find anything inside it.
No. By the way, is the recording not uploaded of the last class?
So there is not, like that class within classroom there is that PH 4107 DPS August, but inside that I can't find anything. I don't know why.
Oh shucks. I mean that folder is empty. That yesterday's last day's recording is not there, is it?
No, sir.
What
Sir, I
the
can
hell
see
is
the
happening?
recording.
Then how can Rohan see? But impossible.
Sir,
Sir, I
the
don't.
class of 27th, right?
Hey, the recording hai. Hey, what are you
हाँ.
doing? Ronak, of course recording is there.
So I
I can see
think
the
it
recording is
might
there.
not be like
1 hour
visible
21
to
minutes.
him.
Huge. Hey, Ronak, can you not see the other things in that drive? August 27? It's not shared with you, is it? The drive, can you not see anything at all?
Sir, actually, like I can go inside the August folder, but I
Ah.
can't see anything inside the August folder. So I don't know what.
No,
Maybe.
so basically the sharing, but I thought I shared everything with everybody. What is this crazy thing, man? Okay, let me share again. Wow, how can this happen, Rohan? I can't imagine.
Sir,
Because
sir,
I shared
actually,
everybody with everything.
yes, sir. Actually, you shared with me afterwards. Now I joined late, so that's
Oh
why.
no, what is your Ronak Noskor? No, let me
No,
again
no, no.
share.
I am Anubhav.
So
Anubhav.
you are Anubhav. Oh,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
but is it shared with you? Can you see?
Sir, actually, I can go inside the
No,
folder,
no,
the
okay,
August
no. I am
folder. But
sending you Anubhav. I'm sending you. I'm sending you.
okay, sir. Okay.
I'm
Sir, have
adding you.
you added him to the classroom? You can
I
directly see
think
that
I
he is
did.
in.
Okay, that is the problem. Yeah, most likely I forgot to add him. Let me just add him. Okay, let me stop recording. This part is not important. Okay, let me just stop recording. Stop recording. This recording will be saved in our fantastic. Finally, it is come.